segments as well. And we're now joined by Boise State Director of Athletics, Jeramiah Dickey. And it's great to have him on. We've had Jeramiah on a couple of 2 or 3 times since he was named the AD at Boise State. Thanks for being a part of the show. Obviously, there's a lot going on when it comes to realignment. We'll get into that. But what has it been like to watch, at least because of what's current right now in college basketball, your basketball team have the success it's had so far?
Well, first, thanks for having me on, guys. I miss you, and it's good to catch up. I'm so proud of our team. You know, I've been here 2 years, and I had obviously watched from afar and knew enough about Coach Wright, but he's just tremendous. And I got to be careful because I don't want anyone to take him, right? Yeah. He's just doing an incredible job, and it shows you, you know, with a little bit of investment and intentionality and strategy, what ultimately it could be. And seeing what the season was last year and how that's dominoed into this season, you know, and I'm tired of hearing about the bubble talk. This team deserves it. They've earned it. And obviously we have, you know, a game tomorrow, but just really proud of this team, and the future is very bright.
Jeremiah, so when you say you don't want people to take you, you're saying he's just good enough. Is that how you tell people so you can keep your coach?
Right. Right. You know, it's hard to keep my excitement down. I mean, to be a part of the conversations and, you know, it's something that, you know, I just really appreciate. You know, he has a ton of experience. He's helped me as a new AD, and I lean on him heavily, and he just, getting to know him, he's everything I thought he would be plus more. And, you know, and the staff that he's put together, you know, Burns and Duryea and you know, Bergenson. I mean, it's just it's an amazing crew, and you know, they're in it for the right reasons. They're here to serve our student athletes. You know, we're a developmental program, and we take pride in that. And you know, it's something to see how these guys have grown. I mean, look at his son. You know, an all-conference player this year, and it just, you know, shows you, you know, when you put in the time, effort, and energy, something great's going to happen. And we've seen that now 2 years in a row. Last year, it seemed like it was a surprise, and we didn't believe it was. And we've done it for, you know, for my second season. And that's a testament to that staff and those student athletes and the team behind the team that's supporting them on a daily basis.
Jeremiah, you talk about energy and just enthusiasm and effort and putting the work in, and you know, you've certainly done that. I mean, I've seen, you know, on social media, you and your staff and the fundraising efforts, and just, you know, trying to improve facilities and just trying to get all the details right as well. It seems like there's been some pretty tremendous reception, even here as of late, you know, as far as support from alums. And just how has that process been? I mean, kind of take us into the shoes of an athletic director who comes in, is trying to get to know people, and, you know, hey, you know, I also, you know, need your help in a way, need your support. Just what's that like, building up that foundation the last couple of years?
It's been awesome. You know, as you guys know, I'm relational, and that's important to me. And obviously, you know, I wanted to, and not necessarily turn the ship because the things that had happened here in the past were bad in any way, but with the changing landscape of our industry, I knew we needed to do more. And in many ways, being at our level, you got to do more with less. And, you know, coming in and to be able to really define the direction and tell a story around what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're going, and to listen. And, you know, a big part of being an AD is, you know, I don't know everything. A big part of it was coming in and listening to these people that have been supporting this place, you know, well before I arrived, and hear what they wanted out of this, and to have that align with my expectations is just a really cool process. And we, you know, early on, you know, yeah, I'm very vocal, obviously, and trying to connect as much as I possibly can. I think there was a lot of, you know, yeah, right. You know, I'm not sure he's going to be able to get this done, but we'll see. And now 2 years in, you know, it's built a lot of street cred, and that's probably less to do with me and more to do with my team and how they've really embraced this. And people are stepping up, doubling our donor base, you know, the number of gifts that we've gotten, you know, how we're monetizing operations, how we're looking at name, image, and likeness. You know, it's maybe more, you know, because I'm new and don't necessarily have all the experience. I'm open, you know, I'm approaching everything eyes wide open, and I'm looking at everything as an opportunity. I'm less concerned about how we got here. I'm more concerned about where we're going. and people have embraced that, and we're starting to see progress on our facilities. You know, the $300 million playbook for success, people thought that was a pipe dream, and it's like, all right, that's fine. This is how we're going to do it. And, you know, and now we're moving forward with Oxygen connected to men's and women's basketball, which will be huge for recruiting. And then we're moving forward with the North End Zone project. And now people believe. And that's what you need as an athletic director. You need people to buy in and believe. And sometimes early on, I had to believe for them. But we're now to the place that, you know, it's just been a really cool part of this process. And I'm excited about what's next.
Has anybody from a Power 5 conference contacted you about a membership?
At this point, you know, and I try to be consistent, you know, I control what I can. And, you know, obviously we're trying to navigate, you know, these uncharted waters. And, you know, I'm making, you know, a lot of calls and trying to stay in touch and have my ear to the ground on what's, you know, what's happening and what potentially could happen. And you know, because of, you know, our current, you know, partnership with the Mountain West, which is outstanding, and think very highly of our brand and who we are and what we represent, you know, and out of respect for them, I haven't been as vocal maybe like others have. You know, at the end of the day, I'm going to control what we can, and realizing as an AD and even our president to a certain extent controls very little in this process. You know, we're going to continue to work the plan that we put in place and best position ourselves. And, you know, at the end of the day, my job is to do what's in the best interest of this institution. That's why I was hired. I'm going to continue to do that. And we're going to continue to define our own expectations. And whether we ever get into the Power 5 or not, that doesn't keep me up at night. You know, we have a Power 5 mentality, and we are going to compete at the highest level. And we are going to be relentless in that process. And that's my promise to Bronco Nation.
Jeremiah, the 12-team playoff starts next season in college football, and for Boise State, a team that's had success in the postseason, in big moments, in big bowl games. How, I wouldn't call it imperative, but how important is it that early on in that playoff that Boise State makes an appearance and has some success in the first few years of it?
You know, is it important in general? Yeah, I mean, I think it's important because we want to compete at that level. We have competed at that level. And when you look at our past successes, we are in that conversation. You know, once again, what I worry about is what I can control and how I can better serve Andy and you know, our student athletes and our coaches and the team behind the team, because, you know, I firmly believe everything counts, everything matters. And, you know, I look at the landscape of college athletics, and I look at the transition in terms of realignment that's taken place. We are in an extremely positive position moving forward, and that excites me. And so, you know, my job is to drive interest and tell our story and monetize this as much as I possibly can, because we're investing every dollar back into this program. And you know, I'm really proud of Andy and excited for, you know, in 2 years, him and I starting together almost on the same day. We've come a long way in 2 years, and the future is very bright, and we're going to continue to grind. And you know, we've adopted that 1-0 mentality, and you know, I'm most concerned about Washington, you know, kicking off this season.
Jeremiah, I know the media, and you know, one of them, but you know, can turn the decibel levels up by 10 on anything, no matter what, and a lot of things can get blown out of proportion. But it does seem like it's kind of a chaotic time in college athletics, in front of the camera, behind the scenes as well. Not to the extent of like people running around with their hair on fire, not knowing what to do exactly, but is it as chaotic, so to speak, just in terms of people trying to find their footing, not only now in the present, but also 5 years, 10 years down the line? Sure, some are secure no matter what, but I think you, like with most of the others, are in that group of like, we'll see what happens and we're trying the best that we can. Is it as chaotic as it appears, or is that overblown, you think?
I don't think it's overblown. This is, you know, and maybe I'm biased because I'm living it. This is a very uncomfortable and chaotic time for athletic directors. And I don't care if you're in the Power 5, Group of 5, whatever level you're at. So much is changing, and we're redefining the rules as we go. And, our jobs as athletic directors is to be out in front of that. And whether you're projecting, predicting, whatever it is, we have to move and we have to continue to look forward and I view it, maybe it's a competitive advantage for me, being a new AD, and I still consider myself somewhat new compared to some of my counterparts. I'm less concerned about how we got to this place. I'm more concerned about how I, adapt and best position our institution. And I view it as a competitive advantage because, I'm coming in without blinders. I'm open to any and all ideas, and in many ways, I love the idea of defining our own expectations, and we're able to do that because, those that have come before haven't necessarily defined them. And so when you look and consider as an athletic director, navigating transfer portal and name, image, and likeness and collectives and, the monetization and professionalization of our sport and what's going to happen when sports gambling comes and it's already here, but when institutions start embracing it and states start embracing it, it is very challenging, but there's opportunity in everything, and we're going to continue to find it.
Is it almost to a point where you're catching up to then have to go fast again because of things moving so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, and maybe unfortunately for my team, but, I move at one speed and it's fast all the time, and so I think that helps me to a certain extent. That's the drug for me, taking something where there aren't a lot of solutions, at least, on the surface, and really having to dig and put this puzzle together, sometimes blind. And, but what I do know is lack of movement, doesn't allow you to pivot. And we have to move and we have to make real-time decisions, and we don't always have the information at hand. And that's, that can be debilitating in some cases for some, but for us, we're going to throw it at the wall, see what sticks. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we're going to pivot and go a different direction. And I feel like if we can continue to do that, and really define the expectations. And we've already somewhat seen it here where people are starting to take some of the things that we've done, like name, image, and likeness, and how we're approaching, the monetization of our department, because every dollar matters, and it's invested back into our student athletes, and we, want to compete at the highest level, and those are our expectations, and we're going to continue to do that.
Jeramiah, Florida passed a law recently basically pulling out almost any guardrail from schools working directly with NIL companies or, people who want to make NIL deals with athletes. How do you feel the state of Idaho is doing when it comes to setting up things to make NIL manageable for the universities?
I think they've done an outstanding job because they've stayed out of it. At the end of the day, and not that I'm a control freak, but I want to control as much of the process as possible. And that's how we've set up our name, image, and likeness. And we've done some things that whether others feel comfortable or not doing it, we have the backing of our attorneys. And as we navigate this ever-changing landscape, I don't necessarily, right now, guys, my preference is for us to control the collective. Why are we bringing others outside in to serve our student athletes when my job is to know what's in their best interest, and 100% my job is to serve them. And, I don't like the idea of giving up that level of ownership in that process, especially when some of these companies are taking 10, 15, 20, 25, even 30% from these kids. If this is the sandbox we're going to play in, then let's figure out what's best. And I think there is a better path forward. And I'm very fortunate. We have a collective, and the guy who runs our collective is, he's a former Bronco and worked in our department for 17, 18 years. And he understands the rules. He very much cares, and he's going to operate the right way. And not everyone is, has that type of setup. So I'm grateful for our legislators and our office of general counsel and our government relations team. And, we've stayed ahead of it and are in daily conversations on what's next and how we can best navigate this. And it makes me proud to be a Bronco.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeremiah. It seems like one way to deal with any middleman type of shadiness or people getting screwed over, or whatever, would be to just eliminate that part of it. I mean, it just seems almost unnecessary. I know that you have to have somebody guiding the way, but that seems to be where a lot of the problems is, in that gray area. But on that topic of NIL, I did see where you guys have some trading cards, out there for Boise State fans, with current athletes. And I just look at it from, all the talk about NIL. I don't think it gets talked about enough. Like, how cool is it that, the current star point guard or volleyball player or quarterback can have their jersey in the pro shop, or also have trading cards? Just how cool is that as an athletic director who's seen the way that college athletics has operated for so long, to now see athletes getting opportunities like having their own trading card while they're at Boise State that Boise State fans can collect, and there's no worry about penalties or anything like that. It just seems long overdue.
I agree, and I think it's awesome because some of my first memories as a kid, and if you remember back in the day, and it was at UTEP, and other schools did it. I collected UTEP trading cards as a kid, and that was my first introduction to college athletics. And I collected cards in general, and my boys are getting involved in it, and to see their friends and how they've embraced it, and it's such a great tie-in, and I think that was the intent behind image and likeness initially, and it's somewhat taken on a life of its own in this pay-for-play model, and whether they become employees or not, and that's a whole different conversation. But as an AD and looking at the landscape, and to tie in to not just football but all of our sport programs, even spirit and traditions or cheer and dance, even they have cards, and it's cool, and it allows me, I'm always thinking, trying to strategize around this. Well, we're building your future Broncos, and this ties into our camps, and it ties into them getting their parents to attend our events and games, and it's there's purpose in everything, and for everyone to benefit off of it, I think is a real it's really positive. And I see others trying to do it, and there's others who have reached out. They reach out daily to us, and how are we navigating this? And I think it's great for our student athletes. The other thing that I think is really cool, and you don't hear enough about, but we are still holding on to this academic portion of the student athlete for dear life, and we're taking this name, image, and likeness, using it as an opportunity to better prepare our student athletes and teach them to be fiscally responsible and about insurance and contracts. And, there's a lot to be taken from this that can ultimately help them in their next chapter of life. And that's something I took from Mac in terms of preparing student athletes for life. And that's something I think is really important. And we can utilize these opportunities to do that.
Jeremiah, there's on the chat room, retired stockbroker. That's the name on the chat room. Please tell Jeremiah that Phil and Christopher, ex-Phi Slamma Jamma cheerleaders, said hello, congrats, and the University of Houston misses you, helped us with a lot of the ticket issues. So that's somebody that watches us because of the Houston connection now to the Big 12 and our coverage of college athletics, that wanted to send you that note.
That's awesome. Please tell them hello, and I remember them, and I'm so pumped for Houston, having been there for 7 years, and what Coach Sampson and those guys are doing, specifically in basketball right now, and having been a part of that process early on. It's really cool to see, and so please tell them hello. Thank you for that.
Can you draw on that experience when you were at Houston with Mac to what you're doing now at Boise State?
Absolutely. That is the exact template. I'm just trying to do it a lot quicker. And that's part of the challenge, but there's so much opportunity. Before, when we were at the University of Akron, to hear Houston was a sleeping giant, and obviously you knew about the Southwest Conference and Phi Slamma Jamma and their tremendous history. But to get there, and there was so much low hanging fruit, and through Mac's leadership and Hunter Yurchek at Arkansas, really able to create that foundation, and it was cool to be a part of that process. And I lean on those experiences, the successes and failures at a place like Houston. It very much is driving our strategy and how we're moving forward here.
So when you watch what Kelvin Sampson's doing, because I know Mac was that decision, that was a decision to bring him to Houston. When you watch what he's doing, is that kind of like part of your blood too? It
absolutely is. I'm passionate about this. I'm not sure there's anyone in our industry that's doing it for the salary or the money. We're in it for a greater purpose, and to be a part of that process. And even pre-Coach Sampson, Coach Dickey, and no relation, but what he inherited and how he started to create that foundation. And then everyone, your job is to take it to the next level. Coach Sampson, man, like, I can't say enough good things about him. He had a very specific plan and purpose in everything he did. And, he is elite, and you've seen it play out in action. And I'm so pumped for those guys, because, what they are today is not what they were when they arrived, or not what that program was when they arrived. They were that way, but they had to get, a very football dominated school at that point to a place that basketball was a priority and could do something epic. And just like I told you before, sometimes as a leader, you have to believe for everyone else. And Coach Sampson had to believe for everyone else. And he had to battle and fight and claw for what they are today. And now he has that community behind him, and there's not a more deserving person, and his family and his son, really proud of them. And I did very little. I happened to be a part of a team behind the team, but I really give Mac and Hunter, I believe, was on our staff at that point, and the sport program administrator for men's basketball. I give them a lot of credit. I believe Coach Sampson was with the Houston Rockets at that point, and to see what it could be, and how that dominoed into their practice facility and redoing their basketball arena and the support that they've gotten. I mean, if you haven't been to that arena, it's beautiful. And, I'm very much looking forward to, and it's probably in the back of Mac's mind, because he was a part of that, with what Baylor's building. And, it matters. And I'm in some ways, whether, I deserve very little, if any, credit at all for what Coach Sampson and those guys are doing. But I take a lot of pride, because, just like I love the Bears, I love the Cougs. And I have a lot of friends in Houston, and very happy and excited for them.
Your attendance for the game against San Diego State just over a week ago was phenomenal. I think it was a sellout, 12,208. I'm not sure the capacity at Extra Mile Arena, but you had well over 12,000, I think even almost 12,005. To look at that and see how many people were there, besides the obvious, like, adrenaline rush, what was that like? What was that atmosphere like?
It's I sit there, and it's hard not to get emotional about this, the work being done behind the scenes, and some of those long days and nights, and as proud as I was as a team, but you just sit back, and, it justifies, what you ultimately sacrifice. And, I remember when I first got there and looking at this blank canvas and thinking about what if, and, to see it play out and to sell out 3 games this year of 12,000 plus, and to average, I don't quote me on this, but I believe we were top 10 in terms of attendance, because we have a very large arena, not just in our own, we were very good in our own conference, but top 10 in terms of Pac-12 and even some of the Big 12 schools. And we'll put that out at some point on social, but I'm really proud of our team, and it's how we, you plan the work the plan, and you sometimes don't see it, but you just keep taking steps forward. And last year we got to the end of the season, we sold out at a game, we won the regular season, and and we said it, and really what was cool about that moment last year was it wasn't me saying it was my team coming to me saying, and here's what we're going to do next. And it was one of the more prouder moments as a leader. And then I get to, we get to that San Diego State game, and it was insane. I've been to a lot of basketball games. It was the loudest crowd I've ever been a part of. And how that game ended, and the crowd very much mattered, and it tied into the story that we've been telling, that everything counts, everything matters. And sometimes a crowd can be the difference between, 2 or 3 baskets. And, and so to see that play out and us to get that win against a ranked opponent, and to provide that experience for our fans, for our student athletes, for our students, that night I told the president, that wasn't just a win in basketball. That was a win for this institution. We just created future Broncos. And that's what we're here for. We are the front porch, and we have a tremendous story to tell, and we are of value, to this model, and to see it play out. I'm a hugger, and I hugged a lot of people, whether they liked it or not, I don't know, but I hugged a lot of people at that game because I was so grateful, just because you saw it play out in action, and that's powerful.
Good for you, because we know what you represent. We're proud of what you're doing. Hopefully things just keep getting better, bigger, better, faster, stronger for you and the Boise State faithful, and obviously know if someone can lead them to another level, it's going to be you and those who you hire as a part of your staff as well. We appreciate your time, Jeramiah.
Thank you guys for having me on. I miss you guys, and good luck in the tournament, and go Broncos.
Yes, sir. You too. Jeramiah Dickey, Director of Athletics at Boise State, with us on 365 Sports. I saw a lot